Hello YouTube, Esplin227 here. This is a question for Ron Paul supporters, and this actually isn't like a bashing of Ron Paul, though I could do that if I wanted to. There's a lot of things he's done and said that I disagree with. This isn't even about the confusing thing I've been hearing from people where, a lot of dirt actually has been appearing on Ron Paul and it's been shown to be true, like the racist letters or that he's not as consistent as they're making him sound, and they say, well, if you're electing the message, not the man. I don't see how that works. As far as I'm aware, when we elect a president, we're electing that person, not some disembodied good intention spirit that floats around him. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I mean, like Obama. If we were able to see that Obama was not gonna do all the change he said he was, would you still support people who say, well, we're voting for the idea of change? If so, why don't you support the Obama supporters now? They're voting for the message of change, not the man. Incidentally, I'm voting for Obama only because everything else is worse. I don't fucking have a choice. Maybe 2016 we can work on getting more candidates that is more than just the two-party system. But hey, that's what we have now. It takes time to replace that. Not last minute, ooh, let's show Obama that. No, because then just the Republicans are going to win. The Republicans want you to do that. Oh, aren't you mad at Obama? You have a choice between people who have to pretend they're not sociopaths, the Democrats. They have to basically pretend they're not sociopaths. And then you have a party of open sociopaths that when they say anything sociopathic or just completely callous and openly evil, like, even if Ron Paul didn't mean let people die on the streets, the people around him were cheering that on. Which means Republicans don't have to pretend to be not evil. They can be openly evil. Their evil is at full speed. At least with the Democrats' evil, we can sort of slow it down a little, protests, right? You think the stuff we're doing now would work at all in a Republican presidency? You think Bush would give a shit if we signed letters against SOPA? No. Bush signed himself Palpatine-like powers when he was in office. He could just be like, yeah, fuck you guys, it's passed. Whereas Obama's kind of a pussy, which is kind of a good thing because we can, the whole world can come down on him. No, you will not pass that bill. Yeah, I know that they went ahead and did some of the shit anyway. That's not the point. The point is, this is my question to Ron Paul supporters. Considering that, unlike Obama and unlike Bush, both sides of the establishment are against Ron Paul on almost every issue he has, which is a good thing. I do agree with like 60% of Ron Paul's views. He's just completely wrong socially. He believes in the concept of state rights. To me, state rights are a system designed specifically to fuck me over. I am in a state filled with fucking rednecks, religious rednecks. Now, don't get me wrong, they're nice people. North Carolinians are nice people. They'll let you pass them in the road. They'll stop out of the blue to help you on the side of the road. They're nice people. Nice does not always equal wise, we'll say. I don't want to be rude. We'll just say that the North Carolina people, along with all rednecks, are myopic. That is, they only see their point of view. They only see things in one tiny little issue, which I think is what a lot of the Ron Paul supporters might be a little bit guilty of. Like extreme myopia. They only see one issue. Nothing else matters. So they might be a little bit myopic and a little bit unwise. If we allow North Carolina to decide on abortion and on this and on that, they're going to choose the redneckiest thing. And I have no defense if we put a strong emphasis on state rights. Now you can say, well, you could just move to another state. And I can say this, why don't I just buy a mansion? Hell, why don't I get 50 cars and some hot chicks to dance around? Shut up. I don't have the money to move to another state. You jackass. You fucking know that. You know that that's the case. So I'm sick of the people who are talking about, oh, you have the right to move to another. I do not have the resources or the connections. If I move to another state and it doesn't work out, I'm living on the streets. You know this. This is what I'm talking about, the sort of Ron Paul myopia. They don't care. They know you can't just move to another state. But again, this is turning into an insult. Here's my question. If both the Republicans and the Democrats are against Ron Paul on nearly every issue, what makes you think he's going to be able to do anything he promises if we were to vote him into office without granting himself uber executive powers, way more than Bush ever did? And that doesn't seem like something Ron Paul would do. The thing he would have to do to be able to do any of the things he wants to do is something he wouldn't do. He's not going to grant himself uber executive powers. The Federal Reserve, both sides are going to vote him down on that. It doesn't even matter what house I mention or what group, Congress, House of Representatives, the Supreme Court, anything he has to go through on any level, he will have zero support. In fact, if he were to fire everyone and rehire everyone, the establishment is so set at this point, and what he wants to do is so radical that even the new people he appoints will still oppose him. Because the scaffolding, the setup of our government there's no way he's gonna be able to do the good things that he wants to do. So what are we left with? If he can't do any of the good things he wants to do, and I don't think he's gonna be able to, even if he got into office, how could he? Everyone in the White House, everyone who he could possibly hire, I give them a month before they're completely bought because of how our system is set up. So he's going to be voted into office, and here's what we're going to get. We're only going to get his worst policies. His hands-off states policies where, let the states decide. Civil Rights Act, I wouldn't repeal it now, but back then I probably wouldn't pushed for it because it's unconstitutional. If you're in a restaurant and they don't want to let black people eat there, just go to another restaurant. If none of the restaurants in your state want to let black people, eat there, go to another state. It doesn't matter if that leads to a situation where you have entire states that are ghettos because all the lower income people, in order to survive, have to go there because the fucking redneck Judeo-Christian fundamentalist in every other fucking state pretty much owns the state. They can do whatever the fuck they want because Ron Paul fucking said they could. No, just go to another state. And when that state starts losing money, incidentally, it won't. If you allowed an openly racist store to exist, it would exist quite well because of something called a niche market. Your beliefs only work when the population is below a certain percentage. When the population gets too high, it allows for subgroups that still have so many thousands of people that you create what's called a niche market. You would have restaurants that are all white people that can survive because you have a big enough community of racists. That's why you needed the Civil Rights Act, because it doesn't matter how much It doesn't matter how much pressure you put on these people socially. There's a big enough market of racists to blame blacks, Jews, and Hispanics for everything that's wrong with the world, without realizing that the system that their ancestors created put blacks, Jews, and Hispanics in the situations they're in. The ghettos and, well, the ghettos, both in World War II, and it's... So that's my question for Ron Paul supporters. What do you think? How do you think Ron Paul is going to be able to actually do the things he said he wants to do, when you know that everyone is against him who has even the slightest amount of power? How do you not see voting for Ron Paul to be voting for just another Republican? Because he's not going to be able to do any of the good things he wants to do. He's going to be, unless he grants himself insane executive powers, which it's against his beliefs anyway. So what do you think would happen if Ron Paul, he says he would get rid of this and that, but I don't think he would be able to. I don't think he has the power to do that. There's a difference between becoming the president and having half of the country against you. You become Republican, the Democrats fight you. But when everyone's fighting you on everything you want to do, I don't understand how you come to the conclusion that Ron Paul is going to be able to do anything he says he wants to do. It just doesn't seem possible. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. So, I know I'm going to get trolled for this. So, whatever, do your stupid trolling. I'll just ignore your comment. Actually, you know what, I wasn't going to delete them, but I'll especially leave them up there because it shows what happens anytime you criticize Ron Paul. Well, you know what? And it doesn't make sense to me because I've criticized other Republicans for literally the same thing, like wanting to let states decide this or that, and having a revisionist view on history. No, civil rights was about states' rights. Oh, that is a minor thing it was about. Why is it that the dichotomy is between, it was only about slavery, or it was only about states' rights, and it was only a little bit about slavery? No. Something tells me that they would have been able to resolve their issues without war on the states' rights issues in political ways if slavery wasn't at least involved. That is, and the fact that some states had bought slaves freedom, don't you see a problem here? They had the ability to buy slaves freedom. Don't you see an inherent issue with how they're looking at human beings? I understand you have to take baby steps, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to fucking stomp down the hallway. You don't have to take baby steps. You need to say, no, your way of looking at life is wrong, and we're correcting you. Don't enslave people. Sorry, I'm going from point to point, but yeah, I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. How do you think Ron Paul is going to be able to do any of the good things he says? The bad things, I think he'll be able to do. For instance, leaving everything up to states' rights, or most things like the abortion and this and that. Yeah, no. I believe him entirely. I think that would happen almost immediately, because most of the White House supports him on that. You can let states decide. It's easier to buy politicians. It's easier for companies to buy local politicians than national politicians. It's cheaper for the company and they get better returns. So no, I agree with the states' rights thing. I think he'll be able to do that quite easily. I think we'll see if he got elected, we'd see the worst changes immediately. I just hope Ron Paul doesn't grasp onto the child labor thing that's going around right now. I don't know, does he already support that? I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, so that's my question and or rant to Ron Paul supporters. Sorry about the rants, I sort of went off on a tangent, but... So how do you think he's going to be able to do any of the good things he wants to do when no one in the White House, or very few people, in a place of power actually support him? Don't you think it's just going to be the bad things? Alright. Until my next video, try to make the world a better place. And I will too.